right?
Is that right? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once more to Feet on the Street.
Yay!
Neighbor to neighbor, person to person, and moment to moment, unscripted, undisciplined, but hey, we have a good time. We're celebrating the best of life. I would say happy 420, but I don't smoke pot, but it's quite all right. But enjoy your libation, just be safe, and enjoy your journey.
Do it at home.
But don't leave the others out, and always act responsibly, please.
Wow.
What?
That's impressive.
Anyway, do hope you all had a good week since last time. And tonight, I've
It
got
was
to
Tuesday.
say,
It was only Tuesday.
well, yeah, but by the time this is broadcast,
Oh, it'll be next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
so hey, he doesn't know everything.
I don't know a lot.
Joined by co-host Phil St. Jean,
Peace.
and tonight I have a special honor of a returning guest,
Yes.
a distinguished man who not only represents family and community, but the true definition of public service.
Absolutely.
Sheriff Mark Nelson, whose father you may remember. You're the living legacy, and you know,
Yeah, you are.
I've got nothing but admiration or anything bad to say on that front, which is a rarity for me. But Mark, welcome to Feet on the Street.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm glad your boots are on the ground. So, which, by the way, I like the hat.
Thank you.
The accoutrements suit you well. And before we proceed too much, I just have to follow up. How's family doing?
Family's doing well. Got my my daughter, son-in-law, granddaughter moved back here from Texas last August, so that was pretty special. And
That's
now
cool.
I have a grandson on the way.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
Did you buy him a little badge when he was born?
He'll have plenty of badges.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will.
He has a collection starting from his great grandpa to his
yeah.
papa and on. So, and then my son. We also have another granddaughter through my son. So I'm doing well. Mom's doing well. The rest of the family's all doing great. I mean, we're incredibly blessed. So thanks for asking.
Well, no, because you never forgotten. I value the times you've been on the show before, and I really have you and your father the highest degree of respect.
Absolutely.
And appreciation, because you hear about all the problems with other legal departments. Tallahassee County Sheriff's Department has always been honorable, with integrity and substance.
Absolutely.
And the connection community is just overwhelming. And I've been exemplary in continuing that tradition.
Thank you. I'll tell you that it's something that we have purposed. We've worked really hard to have the best possible people that we can afford.
Right.
Quite honestly, I mean, people these days, I mean, they're going to go where they're going to make money and that sort of thing. But I think the other thing is that young law enforcement officers, young people who are looking for a career in law enforcement these days, one of the things that they're looking at is we have very little turnover. So people
Which is rare.
Oh, yeah.
Which is rare.
Oh, yeah,
People who
absolutely.
leave the sheriff's office usually, I mean, generally they leave because they're retiring
Yeah.
from there.
Not going to another agency.
They're not headed off to another agency. You know, we've had a couple.
Sure.
One guy left and went to another agency and was there for a couple of weeks and called me up and said, "Can I come back?"
Oh,
And
really?
I said, "Heck yes."
Absolutely.
I hired you once, I'll do it again. So he was able to come right back and refill his position, and it was terrific.
I notice you surround yourself with good people too. Like Charlie Rosenzweig, Lisa Prater, who we went to school with, and yeah, it's impressive.
I have a great staff, and honestly, I mean, my undersheriff, the guy who's my undersheriff now, is
Mark, isn't it?
Right? Yeah, I mean, of course, he's been
Mark Gilchrist.
been a friend for 45 years, and
Yeah.
he's getting ready to retire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's
Nice. Been there
a
in, huh?
couple of months, and
Oh,
he's
really?
pulling the pin.
Wow.
So you know, I've chosen another undersheriff to follow him, and you know, and I'm excited about the future for the sheriff's office. I'm excited about the things that we're doing. You know, there are challenges. I mean, there's some significant challenges that we
Right.
have.
I want to interject something because there's
Okay.
a question I meant to ask you last time. Compared to when your dad was sheriff and what you got now, what has changed through time and what are the obstacles? Because I've got my theory, but
Sure. You know, it's easy for me to talk about what I have today because I live it and breathe it. And during my dad's terms as sheriff, I didn't have that. I mean, I wasn't there, other than I was a reserve deputy during a good deal of that time, and was a Longview police officer during some of that time.
Yep.
But you know, I think each sheriff faces their own obstacles and their own challenges. I know that Dad had some. And certainly, Mount St. Helens was a
Huge.
oh, a
one.
huge thing was he
You know?
was a star.
Yeah, he
Yes.
was.
Oh my gosh, the way
He
he
was,
managed the
yeah, he was
department.
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
There would have been a lot of lives lost if he hadn't done what he did.
Yeah, and the fact is that he got he did a collaborative effort with Lewis County and Skamania County sheriffs. So the three of them got together and actually cross-commissioned their deputies, so that at the time, before the Mutual Aid Police Powers Act was passed in the state of Washington, this would have been a model for that, really.
Oh, yeah.
So each of those sheriffs gave authority to each of the others' deputies to enforce the law within the red zone, actually anywhere in their county.
My understanding is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there were over 600 people that were actually removed by that coordination
Well,
before the thing went.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't know that I've actually seen that number, but that would not surprise me at all. So,
Relative to numbers I've heard,
Yeah.
I thought it was just incredible coordination, and forgive my language, but that's true leadership, and it took some balls.
yeah.
Because you didn't buck the system.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that was really a challenge I recall for him was of course, the property rights, and how do you protect a person's rights to their property, which you're sworn to do, and protect their lives, which you're also making every attempt to do. And so there's a real balance there, and it does take a special kind of person to be able to walk through that process, and I think that they did it really well. So you asked about some of the differences between the then and the now. Probably the thing that is the most glaring change is in particularly one area where in the last 40 years there's been no change, and that's the biggest thing for me, is that I actually have one fewer deputies today in 2018 than my father did in 1978.
With a higher population
Really?
base.
Yeah. I mean, there's 30,000 more people. The call load has increased exponentially. I serve the largest population base in the county. In other words, there's another 10,000 plus people roughly who live in the unincorporated areas of the county than our largest municipality, which is the city of Longview.
Right.
So we serve the largest number of people with the fewest number of officers per thousand. So
Wow.
so it's a challenge, and if it weren't for technology, quite honestly, I mean, there's just no way that we could manage that. I mean, it's a huge issue and one that we face all the time.
I know you want to say something, but I just want to throw in one last
I
question.
just stood up.
No, you, I saw that mouth moving. Right. What do you need from the public
Yeah,
to
good
advance
Great.
your goals, your objectives? 'Cause I've got nothing but respect for the sheriff's department. I can't say that about other departments of the government.
Well,
I mean, you're an elected person. You're not
I am.
appointed, which is
I
where
am.
I hold you in high esteem.
Yeah.
it's interesting, you know, as you look at when you look at government, and particularly elected officials, and you know, over the last number of years, I've grown to understand this far more than I did when I first got this job, and that is that as the sheriff, I don't work for the county. I work for the people. I am my office.
Nice.
My office is part of county government. Yes, it is an established part of county government. The office that I hold is not mine. It is the people's office, and I'm the one who said, yes, I'll do this job if you want me to.
Right.
And I was elected to do that job.
Yep.
And
A couple times over.
a couple of times now, yeah. Appointed once, elected twice. So you know, and it's an incredible honor. Oh my gosh, it's an incredible honor to be chosen by, you know, by your community to serve
Sure.
them in that way. So, your question about what can the public do? I think that the public, I know that the public has a voice, and they just need to use that voice, and it's the same voice that we should be using when there are questions, you know, on local issues, local matters that are going on that they care about. They need to use their voice. On national issues, they need to use their voice. On opinions about where the city of Longview or Kelso or Castle Rock, Lima, Woodland, whatever, where those communities are going, they need to use their voice. You have an opinion, and that opinion counts at a time when you can share it, but it really counts in a vote.
Yeah.
I mean, your vote is your ultimate way of saying,
Yeah.
this is my choice, nobody can take that away from me.
Exactly.
There's no guarantees that you're gonna win, you know, but if you don't get up to the plate and swing at the ball,
Yeah.
you're never
You're not gonna get.
So, anyway, what people can do is to make their feelings known. And if people believe that public safety is important, and I believe, and I know that they do, then they need to let the Board of Commissioners know that. And the reason why I say the Board of Commissioners, while I work directly for the citizens, I don't work for those guys.
Right.
They're not my bosses.
You're your own boss.
Yeah, or I got
Or the public.
100,000 of them. You know, but the commissioners are responsible for funding the sheriff's office.
Okay.
So they are responsible for providing me a budget to work with. And you know, when I first had the opportunity to take this job, and I was interviewing to be appointed for this job the first time, I remember being asked, there was a panel of commissioners and citizens, and they asked me, they said, so in the past, your predecessors have come in and asked for, you know, every time we would do a budget thing, they'd ask for 6, 8, 10 deputies, you know, 10 more deputies. And, you know, we can't do that. So how are you going to handle that? Are you going to come in here every time and ask for a bunch of deputies? And I said, I'll promise you this. I won't come in here and ask for things that I don't need. I'm not gonna come in here and ask for taxpayer dollars for things that I cannot justify or cannot, that I don't need. That's my promise to you. And I never have. In the last 9 years, I've not come in and asked for a deputy's position, a clerk's position, equipment, anything that I did not need. We stretched out the use of our patrol cars by several years. By the way, against my recommendation, because those vehicles are they're the responsibility of Public Works Department to provide those, so the county provides the patrol vehicles for us.
No, I haven't. Sunday.
They wanted to increase the number of miles driven for these cars. So they, against my objection, they increased the mileage before we were going to rotate those cars out.
Uh-huh.
Well, you know, I mean, a police car gets pretty hard use.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
well maintained. Don't get me wrong. They take good care of them, but they get rode hard. And go ahead, you got a question?
Well, I've got a question for you because we've kind of got an international audience in a way.
We do.
But can you elaborate on the number of miles and area that you geographically are responsible for as leader of the sheriff's department?
Sure. Yeah, so the county has a population of about 105,000. It's 1,155 square miles. About 65% of that is actually in timberland.
Right.
So that puts our population concentration.
And how many vehicles do you have?
Well, I've got about 50 cars, total, but I only have 42 deputies.
No, I understand that. I want people that are extended that join us every week to understand what arena that you work in, that you have excelled at,
Right.
managing.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, we do a lot of driving. Our guys are on the road a lot, and honestly, the county's been very, very good about providing us with good equipment. I understood the reason why they were trying to expand the mileage and all on these things, but I had a feeling that this was going to end up being a failed experiment, and it did turn out that way. And of course, it ended up putting us in a big bind because we ended up having to replace like 20 cars over the 2-year period of time.
Wow.
And that was a big hit. on the-
This is a Mark Nelson, I told you so moment. Sorry, Mark.
So anyway, that's kind of where we're with that. But the idea is that my job by law is to be the chief executive and conservator of the peace of the county. That's what the RCW says.
Right.
The law, the rule, the job of the sheriff is. So that is passed on. I pass that on to my deputies. I have a mission statement and a vision statement that reflect that ideal of bringing peace, a sense of peace and security to the citizens of this county,
Right.
to the greatest degree that we're able. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that influence that, lots and lots of things that influence it. But to the greatest degree possible, that's what we do. And I've got amazing people that do tremendous work. They're out there working cases, trying to, we had an incident here a few weeks ago where a guy had been stealing from his employer. We were able to recover about $35,000 or $40,000 worth of equipment,
Wow.
get it back to him. We have other areas that we're focusing on. We continue to focus on drug issues.
Which has that increased in the years, obviously?
Oh my gosh.
Like with meth and,
Yeah, I think it's been, well, we can transition to the drug piece if you want, which will take, to be some interesting conversation, I'm sure.
You go for it.
No, you're doing good, man.
If it's important to you, but I will comment though, it's like, this is a 3-star local general. And he's got
He's got
stripes.
4 on, doesn't he?
He's got stripes right here on his.
Yeah, but he's got 4 on it. He's got 4 stars on his
He's got
three.
3.
Oh, 3?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought he had 4.
But,
I wouldn't
anyway,
mark much, I didn't count.
soldier for justice, soldier for the citizens, Mark Nelson. Go
My
ahead.
question is, before you got your badge, you wore your dad's badge.
I did, yes.
What was that feeling the first time you put his badge on your
You know, it was pretty wild because, of course, Dad was still alive at the time.
Right.
And so I don't remember whether I told this story here or not, but my dad at the time he was in a care facility, and so we got he had his badge and we pinned his badge on, and my brother actually pinned it on for me.
Nice.
And so I leaned over and I gave my dad a hug, and he said, I asked him, I said, well, what do you think, Dad? And he said, what'd you go and do that for?
Really? Seriously?
Now, there's 2 things. One is, my dad always had that sort of humor.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought he was just, he's just pulling my leg like Dad often would. But after a few years, I thought, no, I think he was serious.
Why did you do that?
Didn't I raise you smarter than that?
Well, I just thought it would be kind of a cool emotional thing, knowing that you're putting your dad's badge on.
Probably as much of that. I can show you a picture of me wearing my dad's badge when I was about 4 years old. So I've been doing that for years.
Okay.
But I will tell you, probably the most impactful thing to me was sitting down in that office at that desk.
Knowing that he's out there.
Same desk, same office, same desk. There probably isn't a day that goes by I don't think of it.
I bet.
In that office, and a good number of days when I think to myself, man, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions.
Oh, amen to that.
I bet.
Who wouldn't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
have their dad back to be able to say, tell me about this. I want.
Yeah. How do I deal with this?
It's like, sorry, I remember you said something about this, but I don't remember the outcome or what I was supposed
Yeah.
to do.
I'm kind of embarrassed.
Help me, Dad.
I'm kind of embarrassed I wasn't paying attention.
Exactly. No.
Yeah.
Well, see, I've known Mark pre-sheriff, because he went to school with my brothers, and non-law enforcement related. This guy has some killer YouTube videos of him singing.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I checked him out this week. And have you ever been to the rodeo, the Cowles County Fair? The national anthem, Mark sings. He has
I didn't know you did that.
he has an incredible
That is
voice.
awesome.
I've done the national anthem at the rodeo for the last, this will be 42 years.
I was on
Wow.
the fair board and I didn't know that.
This will be 42 years, yep, I've done, I missed 2 performances during all of those years.
Wow.
One was because I was out on a call and I just couldn't get there in time. I think they had the clowns sing that year.
Okay.
And the other one was when I was in the police academy.
Yeah.
So
Now, there's a story that I remember you telling me
Careful.
a long time ago. What?
careful telling
No, this
stories.
is a good one.
Oh,
I
family
believe-
friendly.
I believe you were, when you first got hired on LPD, and I can't remember if you were in the car with your mother or you were following your mother. And you kind of told her how many violations you broke as driving. You remember that story, Mark?
Well, I do remember. I do remember stopping my wife.
You stopped your wife?
I did stop my wife.
You didn't
Yes.
out of the car?
It was going so fast that I didn't recognize it right off.
Seriously? So you walk up to us and there's your wife,
So I'm getting ready to call in the stop,
right?
And I start to give the license number and realize it's mine. And said, disregard, never
Disregard.
mind. And hung up the radio, and I walked up, and my wife thought it was all good fun, and that I had just stopped to
Say hi.
give her a hug and and a kiss and say hi and all that kind of stuff, because she was headed over to the college to rehearsal, and she got out of the car. She's like, "Hi," and I said, "You know how fast you were going?" Of course, immediately I'm the one in trouble.
Oh, well, yeah, because you pulled her over.
You know, 'cause-
Yeah, well, it's always the guy's fault.
Because I said,
Yeah.
anyway, it's a funny story, and we laugh about it now. No, I did not write her a ticket.
No.
That would have been sort of counterproductive, I think. And,
But, you think? Well, yeah, I remember the story about like your mom, you were telling him, I think you were with LPD, just got hired on. You made the comment, how many violations, and what was her comment back to you?
I don't remember, probably something about I brought you into this world, I can take you out, or something akin to that.
That's just one of the stories that sticks out in my mind. I don't know why, but I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
She kind of remembered who's the mom and who's the son.
Yeah. I know how that works.
I do. Well, I was fortunate enough to serve with Mark in the Sheriff's Reserve 35 years ago, and you were the captain when I became a Sheriff Reserve. And what a great program.
Yeah.
It's still going strong?
Yes, it is.
Good.
It is. In fact, let me quickly give a great shout out to our emergency volunteers. Last year in 2017, our emergency volunteers, and this is reserves, sheriff's reserves, search and rescue, civil air patrol, dive rescue, and Coast Guard auxiliary, and amateur radio.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
so that group of people put in over 16,500 volunteer hours.
Wow, that's amazing.
When you put a dollar figure to that, plus the number of miles that they drove in their own vehicles, you put a dollar figure on that using government estimates for what volunteers are worth,
Right.
basically. It adds up to $250,000.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
And I'm sorry, $500,000. It comes
half.
It came with $547,000. So a few weeks ago, I was able to go over and present a big, one of those big phony checks that
Right.
the commissioners are still trying to figure out how to
How to
cash.
cash.
And presented that to them. Said, I just want you to know that this is what the volunteers are doing. These are people who, in the middle of the night, driving rainstorm, are up and out of their homes, out of their warm beds, out of their house to go help somebody who's in trouble, lost, whatever the situation might be. And they're an amazing group of people, and we're incredibly blessed. One of the things that you guys see this as well, I'm sure. But if you look around, the people of Cowlitz County we have an amazing volunteer group. I mean, we've got people. Volunteerism is something that is alive and well here, and
I agree.
you see people who are willing to step up and help out. Whether they may not be part of a service club, but that doesn't mean that they're not willing to go help out at clean up a ballpark, or that they're not willing to do a neighborhood walk around and pick up trash out of an alley, or people just do that. I mean, there's a great number of people who step up and do those kinds of things, and it's community taking care of community. If we did more of that, we would have far less issues. I think the majority of people want to be engaged with their community, but they've become fearful because of liability. They've become fearful of people who are pushy and loudmouth and fear of some kind of, retribution or stepping into some area that somebody's gonna make somebody mad. And those things hold people up from being engaged with one another.
Right.
We gotta get beyond that. We have to get past that.
Oh my God, you get big.
You know how you get past that?
Bravery.
That's how you get past
Good
it.
answer, yeah.
Courage. I mean, that's what it takes to get beyond that. You have to say, I'm gonna do what's right because it's what's right. And I'll do it regardless of the consequences, And that's a hard thing to do. I know it is.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to go outside of yourself for those things, but I mean, it's what makes us who we are as Americans. I really believe that.
Yeah,
To be, as Americans, we were courageous enough to leave our countries, because we're all immigrants here.
Absolutely.
Our ancestors were brave enough to leave their country and move to a new world. And our ancestors were brave enough to start a new government and to fight against the tyranny that they disagreed with. Not everybody agreed.
Right.
I mean, there were people on both sides that lived here that were engaged in that battle. But in the end, we became who we are today, complete with the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and those things that are the foundation of who we are. And we have to continue to teach people and talk about where we came from.
Right.
When you look at other cultures, the American culture is a little different than many other cultures, because other cultures, you'll have those groups of elders who will sit around and tell stories of old.
Well, Indian tribes.
Exactly.
Right.
It was like even a local Chief Laluska.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Story.
Yes. Yeah, that was,
They actually have
Chief
messages. Huh?
Love Chief Laluska.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anybody that grew up around here
Yeah.
probably had some opportunity. I mean, they went on a field trip or something
Yeah.
to school
Yeah.
to to listen to Chief Laluska and hear him share stories from the native times. Well,
And they were community stories.
they were,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, they were.
But we're missing out on opportunities. I think about,
And did you get one of those little racks?
in biblical times when things that would happen, you read throughout the Old Testament and you hear stories about the people of Israel as they're traveling through the desert, and some miraculous thing would happen. And they would say, and so they built an altar. They piled up a bunch of stones right there. And then it would say, and those stones are still there to this day. I mean,
Wow, that's incredible.
You'd write those things. And of course, there are archaeologists that are out now. Of course, they look for these things, and they find archaeological evidence in some of those places. But in any event, it really is kind of getting back to talking about us as Americans and the foundation of who we are. And we don't talk with our children about those things enough. It's not just telling the stories about, you know what, when I was a kid, I did some stupid stuff too. No, that's not what we're talking
No,
about.
we don't want those stories.
We're talking about, let me tell you a story about this, what happened with me and how it impacted my life, how it changed me.
Right.
You can do those, but then you also have to go back and talk about the things that changed us or affected us as a nation. From the Revolutionary War to the Civil War, the things that led up to that, and post-Civil War, up through World War I and World War II, and almost all of these things evolve around those huge markers.
Sure.
in our lives and in our country. It's been kind of interesting. I had a fourth grader from a school up in Mount Vernon who sent me a letter, and they're doing Washington State history, and he was assigned Cowlitz County.
Oh, really?
So he sent me a letter and he said, can you give me some information about Cowlitz County and such, and if you can help me out with some stuff for a display and all that. So I'm putting some things together to send off to him. But, you know, the history of Cowlitz County, when you start sharing that, and the fact that, I said, did you know that the state of Washington started in Cowlitz County?
Oh, yeah.
And
I did not even know that.
it
Well,
absolutely,
the former county seat.
Well, I knew that,
but
When my,
the Monticello Convention,
right?
which is acknowledged right out on Tennant Way,
Oh, yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
But there's one also here.
That's just a plaque, that's
Plaque, right.
just hanging up there. But the actual Monticello Convention, the location of that is out on Tennant Way, right there by where the old meatpacking plant
Okay.
was, and
Yeah.
that tree is. The signs that's right there is about where the Huntington House was
Mhm. Oh,
on
okay.
the Cowlitz River.
Right, right.
That's where in 1853, that's where the Monticello Convention, actually, I'm sorry, it was actually about 1850, the Monticello Convention took place there. And then, and that was dividing the Washington Territory from the Oregon Territory.
Okay.
So, which happened in 1853. In 1854, Cowlitz County was recognized as a county
Wow.
in the Washington Territory, even though Washington didn't become a state until 1889.
Right.
So it's fun taking.
Wow, that's cool.
You
That's
know,
one of the things I really enjoy about you, because you actually know history.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely does, yeah.
It's kind of refreshing to actually hear it back.
well, you know, the cool thing for me is, I mean, I've always loved the city of Longview, and I mean, it's my home, it's where I grew up, and you know the history of that. But being elected as the sheriff of the county has, I mean, it's truly expanded all of that. My mother grew up many of her years. In fact, my grandfather built a house on the old highway up north of Castle Rock, and it's still there to this day. And so, when we used to be up there a lot when I was a kid. So I love the north end of the county. I love that. And then in the early 60s, we lived down in the south end of the county. My dad was the resident deputy down there and we lived in Woodland for a couple of years.
Really?
Yeah. So, only time other than when I was staying with Uncle Sam that I lived outside of Longview. And, but with that, I mean, we lived right down along the dike on the Lewis River, at the very, very end of South Beacon Road. House is
Okay.
still there, on the old Ferguson farm. And, I'll tell you a quick story. My dad came, I remember this is in the early 60s, so it was a different time, folks. We don't do this kind of stuff now. But my dad came and picked me up from school in his patrol car. And so he came and picked me up, and he got a call of a guy that had fallen and was injured way up the Bush River Highway. And so he looked at me and he says, "So you want to go?" "Oh, I'm like 8 years old." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sure, let's go. You know, this sounds like fun." And so he hit the lights and the siren, and off we went. And oh my gosh, it was the coolest thing. Maybe that was when I first got the bug. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. When did you get the law enforcement bug? But that sounds like it.
Well, you know, it really wasn't. When I was in high school, I thought I was going to be a pastor. That was kind of what my plans were.
Right.
I
can see
planned
that.
to enter the ministry, and
Yeah.
and I was excited about that. And then my senior year in high school, I was working, I had a security job, and working on the weekends, but I decided that I didn't want to do a civics class, the civics class at the high school my
Right.
senior year. And so, so I went over to LCC and found out that they had a physical evidence class. Dr. Warren Coffey was a retired California State Highway Patrolman. And Dr. Coffey was teaching this physical evidence class. And so I asked him, can I go to this take this law enforcement class over there instead of taking the civics class, the world problems class? And they said, okay. I'm like,
Nice.
cool, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And so I think really it was going to that class, hanging out with a bunch of these young, brand new cops who were trying to work on getting their degree, listening to the stories that they would tell, some of which were true. You know,
Some.
well, you know, everybody embellishes the story
Of
a little
course,
bit, you
of
know.
course.
But anyway, I think it was after that I really went, you know what, this is it for me. I really want to do this.
Well, I know you've always wanted to be with the county, but you
Yeah.
got into it with Longview.
Right.
When you first-
Yeah, I actually started as a reserve deputy in
Right.
1977.
Yep.
And served as a reserve until 1984. And part of that was because in about 78, I was on the list for hire for Kelso Police Department, and I had just gotten married. Patty and I had just gotten married. We got our 40th anniversary coming up here in
Oh,
October.
cool.
Congratulations.
Very cool.
Thank you. Congratulate her. She put up with me that long.
It takes two.
Anyway, we had just got married. We've been married about 2 weeks. I got a phone call from Tony Stout in Kelso, and he called me up and he said, "So, do you want to? We got your name on the list. I was number 1 and number 2 on the list." He says, "You want to come to work? And we're ready to hire you." And I went home. I was so excited, and my wife said, "You know, I don't know if I want you to be a cop.
Really?
You know,
Yeah.
working nights and it's dangerous and all that stuff." And I went, "Oh, okay, yeah, all right, well, you know," and I knew at the time that if you don't have support from your family in this job,
Oh,
you
man.
don't have support for your family, it's done.
Yeah, plus that
And I
feeling.
know
Yeah.
that if I had taken, if I had said, you know, I'm gonna continue to go down that road and pushed it and said, I'm gonna take that job anyway, I know my marriage wouldn't have survived that. You know, I think it would have been too hard on us, primarily because of me. I know me, I know that I would have been one of those so dedicated to the job, I would have put it before my wife, and that would have been a huge, horrible mistake for me. It's just a job. Her, I mean, that's forever. So
Well, family, faith, and community first has always been kind of your
Yep.
mantra, so. but
Yep.
We are running out of time.
We are.
Is there any last minute things you want to say? Because I do have to wrap this up, because you're fascinating. We could go like 2 hours, but we are actually.
Would you like to come back?
You know,
but
you know me. The reporters love me.
Oh, I bet.
Well,
I
you know-
bet they do. I bet they do.
When they come in, they go, "So what do you think about, you know?" And then I've scheduled a half an hour for you to answer this one question, because I'll just keep going. You know,
But you're totally fine. It's just I've got to be respectful.
I understand,
of
of
what we're doing.
course. You know, anything last to say? I mean, I could not imagine any greater honor, honestly, that I've ever been being honored in any way other than being elected as the sheriff of this county. I hope it happens again. that'll be a topic for another time when
Right.
when I'm not in uniform and off duty. Although I'm never really off duty.
I was gonna say you don't.
You know, say, you know, when do you get off?
No.
I get off December 31st to midnight, 2018, unless I get reelected.
Wow.
So, anyway,
Well, I feel it's an honor.
You honor us.
Yes,
For your service.
absolutely.
Your commitment, your heart, your leadership.
Yes.
And I actually know a lot of young people you've had contact with from the schools and things that you encounter. You always take the time to say hi and make connection. And that's what distinguishes you above other people that are out there in other areas that I've been to. So you are a leader, a gentleman, and a respected man from this person.
Yeah, I
Thank
totally agree. I
Thank you.
totally agree. And I'm proud to have Mark as our sheriff.
Anyway,
Okay, Ray, you got the shout out.
I've got the shout outs. I'm going to summarize because we are well over time.
Oh, yeah, we are.
So, from, to all of you in every state of this nation
And across the country.
and the territories, and also across the world, all 93 different countries that actually are listening to us.
It's awesome.
I would list your names, but we're out of time. So
You know who you are.
We'll do it, but hey, love, appreciation, and hugs to you all. This is Feet on the Street, and please join us again. And again, thank you, Sheriff Mark
For a
Nelson.
special Friday edition.
Nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
good to meet
Special
you.
Friday edition.
Laurel, you gonna?
Laurel, sign us out.
Everybody have a great weekend
Thank you.
and be safe.
And happy 420.
Thank you.
Happy 4th.
Wow, wow, wow. Bye.
Bye.